back in the early 70s, Baba's brother Jal would come to Mehrabad, and he would, come to morning arti and evening arti, and after the prayers and the artis were sung, that's about 7:15, then he would begin regaling us with all of these jokes for the rest of the arti. And these were jokes that he told Baba, and he was a great joke teller, had a great delivery. He could play the different parts. I mean, Mani was a great joke teller as well. But imagine at the tomb of some of the avatar, you know, telling jokes as a part of the whatever the worship in the morning and evening. But it was great. It was just like Baba.
Well, laughter makes you feel good, right? And
Yeah,
don't they say it's not what people say or do, it's the way they make you feel? I think that's
yeah,
Angela,
Hi,
somebody's
Angelo.
Angela's. Yes. Yeah.
I, I have a question. I have a question, Jeff.
yeah.
It's not that this is funny, but this morning they were telling a story at RT about, and I think it was Mani who had come in and hadn't taken off her shoes. So Barbara gave her a what for? And
Oh,
she
She
went,
was only 7.
yeah,
oh, she was 7 years old.
yeah.
Yes.
Oh my God. And he slapped her. And she ran back in under cover of the the women's section. And they kept paging her, saying, Mani, you have to come back. She kept not doing it. And what was the
Yeah.
end of the story, Angela, that she
So the story basically goes that she was very used to Baba just totally loving on her, just lots of hugs and kisses. So she goes in very bold, goes right up to Baba, and Baba looks at her like, "What have you done?" And she's just like totally confused, like, "What?" And he looks down at her shoes. She hadn't taken off her slippers, and he gives her a slap on her cheek. And she's so shocked. She stands rock still,
Stock still.
stock still like a statue. And Baba says, "Well, go take your shoes off." So she has to hold her head high, walk all the way down the whole hall. She takes her shoes off, and she comes back and she sneaks to the women's side where there used to be a little divide, so you couldn't visually see across the men's and the women's, and she hid behind the other women mandali, she was only 7, the women mandali, and she's hiding out. And after a couple minutes, there's a message: Mani, Baba's calling for you. And she hunkers down even more. Happens again: Mani, a little more urgent, Baba's calling you, come right now. And she's like, no. And now the women mandali are starting to push her, like, you can't keep Baba waiting. A third time, more demanding: Mani Esarani, you're expected at the front. Come, Baba's calling you. Come right this minute. So now the women push her onto her feet, and so she's standing up now so she can be seen, and she looks around and everybody's staring at her. So once again, she has to hold her head high and go all the way up to Baba. And Baba now just gives her the most beaming, loving hug. And now she cries it all out because, oh my God, she was like, so shocked from that slap. And now she can let it out. Baba's loving on her, and she's just having a total release. And the more she cried, the more Baba hugged her. And she says that the lesson she learned was twofold: always take your shoes off. and then she said, now isn't that interesting, It makes you think that, doing a bad thing, you get doubly blessed because you get extra attention from Baba.
That reminds me of something. It's, it's not not so humorous, but Mayru, when she was young and with the women mandali, and they'd gone to she would describe this, gone to a movie, and that people were settling in their seats, and there was a kind of dignified family, I guess, in the front row, and Baba sent her down to ask them to move, if they would move so they, they, I guess, kind of reluctantly moved to a different place. So I guess there was a better view for Baba and his party. So they moved, and then Baba said, "No, it's not quite right. Go down and tell them to move again." Now she's like, oh, she had to go down and tell them, these people that have just gone to a movie, there are no reserved seats, and she has to go down and ask them to move again, and it's just humiliating. And she came back and sat, with the women, and everything's still kind of going on before the movie and everything. And then Baba says, "Go ahead and go and ask them to move again," and she just could not. There was no way. She didn't do like mine. I mean, she refused. She just couldn't do it. It was just one humiliation too much. Can you imagine? I mean, there were things like that. If you could, and she's a pretty strong lady too. I mean, but there is a limit here, a human limit.
And Baba loved to push those limits.
Yeah, and Kitty Davies' brother, Herbert, they were in Europe somewhere, I can't remember exactly, and Baba, and there was some property down below, apparently, and he asked Herbert to go down there to that property, maybe to ask if they could, go onto their property or something. Well, this was just unheard of. You just don't do things like that. And Herbert just couldn't do it, And as it turned out, Baba said there was someone he was supposed to see down there who was looked like someone that he was supposed to contact in China. And because he just couldn't do this thing of going over on someone's property and everything without invitation, so it made it more difficult for him to contact that person in China that he was supposed to contact. But Baba could ask us, he'd know just what would be impossible. Like he said, if Vilu was Sorosha's wife, and he said if she would fast for 8 days, he would give her God realization. But he knows just the very thing to pick on that someone is just not going to do. It just something that's just not going to happen. I don't even think she tried. So, you kind of wonder, well, what could he ask me to do that would just be my limit?
Cliff mentioned that today is D-Day.
Ooh. Mm-hmm.
And with all this rain, he's reminded of of Baba ordering Elizabeth to put
Margaret.
The cat out. You want to tell that story?
Yeah, that was Margaret Crass.
Margaret.
They were at Marizad. It was raining. And Baba said, put the cat out. And he didn't say it like, I guess, he just, it didn't have a real stamp of a strict order. But so she's, Baba, it's raining, So she delayed. I don't know. I think she delayed a day. The next day, Baba said, put the cat out. And she just kind of demurred and everything. And this time, Baba said, whose cat is it anyway? So she did. She put the cat out. And of course, it went outside, but just got under a roof, overhang of a roof. So it was no big deal. And Margaret felt that was, later on, she felt that was connected to the invasion, from the Normandy invasion. And it was delayed a day for actually better weather. But she felt it was connected, and she used to say that. But then, oddly enough, Viola Farber, one of her dancers, was in France on the 50th anniversary of D-Day. and she was, I don't know how, she just wound up being there, and some general got up and started talking about the whole, giving the history of it. And then he said that the password, the code word for this invasion was the code from the Allies, from England over to the French resistance. The French resistance was to let them know when to come. And the code was, has the cat been let out? Exactly what Baba, was doing there at Marizod. Has the cat been let out? And they said the cat has been let out, and that was I guess that was the green light for the invasion. So, but this came many years later. The actual verification from Viola, so that would have been, 95 or what, 1995. That what Margaret used to kind of claim, she felt, was actually the code word. So amazing things.
May I just add something?
Yeah.
The way I remember reading it is that the first night she said, "Oh, Bob, it's raining so hard," and so he acquiesced. And then the second night, said when he said, "Whose cat is it anyway?" She said he appeared to be 7 feet tall. His energy just shot up, and then she just shrunk down and said, "Okay, Bob," and threw the cat out.
Yeah.
It appeared to be 7 feet tall.
Wow. Okay, that's that reminds me also. Erich used to say when they would carry Baba in the lift chair in the latter years, sometimes Baba in the lift chair would be so light, it would be easy for them to carry it, and sometimes it would feel like it was like 500 pounds. So Baba's weight was, he was on that special keto diet or something. He was, hitting the extremes. But no, really, they would feel, and afterwards they would say, "Didn't Baba feel heavy today?" Well, Yeah.
I think the one I remember is also that at the same time it was Churchill's commanders that were resisting what he was asking them to do. And on the second or third day where Baba told her to, whose cat is it anywhere, who is in charge here? And Churchill did the same thing on that day. Who is in charge here anyway? And then they followed what he said.
Beautiful. So it even lines up that way. Yeah, I can't remember whether you think it might have been the third day.
Yeah, I think it was the third day.
Yeah, I kind of remember that too. No, it's amazing some of the hints we get of what Baba was doing at deeper levels. Yeah, let's have a moment of silence. Jai Baba. I just happened to think someone described Darwin, and I realized that it was what they said was true, that Darwin created an atmosphere. It was like he was a master of atmosphere. When he, if you were around him, a certain atmosphere would emerge that wasn't there previously. But anyway, I thought that was an interesting description of his kind of breadth of being. But anyway, there's a quote of Rumi's that I like, where he says, the roads are different, but the destination is one. All those who yelled at each other along the way, "You infidel, you hypocrite," in the end, wind up drinking from the same keg of wine and laughing out loud. And and so anyway, there are a lot of different names for the goal, as you know, and sometimes some people think they're like different destinations, but the destination is one, as Rumi says. You know, it's called God, truth, nirvana, the higher self. Darwin calls often the realm of the spirit or the soul. But the Sufis have a term of that Darwin liked called the heart of hearts. And in the heart of hearts, is where Baba resides, and all the divine qualities reside in the heart of hearts. But they're in a latent form. Oh, well, not even latent form. There's no form there, but they're latent. You know, empathy, compassion, forgiveness, humor, generosity, patience, courage, all the best human qualities are there, latent. And so Darwin's whole thing, as we are reading, is to empty out the heart by giving our sanskaras, all of our hang-ups and everything, to Baba. So that then those divine qualities just can naturally flow from the heart of hearts into the heart. And we actually become more empathetic, more generous, got more of a sense of humor. All these things, they start to percolate in us. But Darwin would say that these qualities shouldn't stop there. They are meant to be expressed in the world, expressed toward Baba and toward the world. You know, he used to say, a common thing that Darwin used to say, don't think of yourself as a base of operations, think of yourself as a conduit, as a vehicle. And the more we purify the vehicle so those divine qualities can come through, the more we're in tune with our more we're in tune with our heart of hearts. So it's a different paradigm altogether from the way most people in the world think of themselves. They usually think, I'm the base of operations here, and you got your base of operations, and there are all these bases. Whereas everything is just coming through. So that's where we're heading. Hopefully, by next weekend, we'll all be there. Okay. So, Angela.
No pressure for God realization.
Oh, I want to mention too is that tonight, I'm going to interview Erwin Luck at 10 o'clock. So he gives he's a great ambassador for the fun-lovingness, the fun of being around Baba. He gets that across. So, and come with questions so you can really pin him down. Try to stump him. Okay.
All right, we're on page 100 of the book. That's chapter 18 of the PDF. That's 59.
Our real work, if you meet life squarely, accepting its opposites with equanimity, while carrying on your duties in a spirit of selfless love and service, you will not only come in tune with the infinite, but you will yourself become the infinite which you seek. Wow, that's intense. So Meher Baba said, from the spiritual point of view, the only important thing is to realize divine life and to help others realize it by manifesting it in everyday happenings, to penetrate into the essence of all being and significance, and to release the fragrance of that inner attainment for the guidance and benefit of others, by expressing in the world of forms, truth, love, purity, and beauty. This is the sole game that has intrinsic and absolute worth. All other happenings, incidents, and attainments in themselves can have no lasting importance. I take this statement, which has become known as the game, in quotes, as an instruction from Baba to concentrate on the divine qualities of truth, love, purity, beauty, and to express them, radiate them in Maya instead of expressing from egoic and samskaric patterns. Doing this helps to keep our focus one pointed and our spiritual current flowing. In electricity, the current flows and the wire is only incidental. Likewise, we are conduits. However, we tend to express sanskaras from the veil creating subconscious. But we are meant to be mediums of the truth, so why not let go of the debris in the mind and become nothing but a wire for the divine current, so that the divine qualities can flow through? We then radiate those qualities instead of myopic thoughts. This is our real work. Baba purposely uses the term penetrate in the game. This suggests effort, that of probing. As we penetrate more deeply into the spiritual realities, we begin to experience an inner life that brings us nearer to the truth and removes veils from the inner states of consciousness. As this happened, we can perceive deeper values within the experience fulfillment within and experience fulfillment at the level of the spirit rather than the material level. Ultimately, we have to find complete fulfillment at the level of the spirit.
There's Darwin used to use the word conduit a lot. And that's, being a vehicle. It's not the flute that's important, it's the musician who's playing the flute, ideally. So I like this thing where he says, by manifesting this divine life in everyday happenings. And I think we all who are around the mandali, they express this love in very mundane, everyday happenings. They weren't conferring, these exalted experiences of transcendent things. They were doing some little wonderful, very human touch, and it was a beautiful thing.
Page 101, attracting the divine qualities.
Attracting the divine qualities. The divine qualities of truth, love, purity, and beauty are our own potential. We are capable of becoming conduits of these qualities, and we can and should attempt to be aware of them continuously. In order to do that, however, we have to purify our hearts, because the heart is the instrument of our probing or penetrating. As we purify the heart, we create a vacuum that attracts the divine qualities. They are there already, resident in the heart, but they do not automatically flow through. One has to clear the way to them. And even more significant, as we do this, we are creating conditions that please God, and He invites us to merge with Him. If our highest value is to penetrate to reality, then we will seek effective ways to deal with the veils that keep us from it. We will explore why we have certain thoughts, concepts, misconceptions, and unexamined conclusions. It is a matter of getting behind the thoughts to see what they are founded on, seeing through them, and thus becoming free of compulsions at the root level. We open up to the Master within and invite his divine impressions to filter in through the heart center. Doing this contributes to a pure in heart state. We have to do this if we want to put an end to the impelling forces that make us incarnate again and again. That is why the Master encourages us to direct our energies toward loving him, loving God. This has a purifying effect on the heart, on our consciousness.
I think in a way, after being in this book for the second time through, I think we're getting the hang of the internal dynamics of what's going on between us and Baba. I mean, it's quite beautiful. You know, one thing I'll mention is, you know, Baba says truth, love, beauty, and purity. But when those things are brought down to the human level, then those are the qualities that we all know. Like, say, generosity and creativity, humor. They're all aspects of those four that Baba mentions. So it's, and they're not outside our knowing. We from the heart we can feel these things, which is great.
Third chapter, or third paragraph, sorry. So being aware of the veils. So for example, if you do something that, you know, is good, bad, or indifferent, is irrelevant, but if you can step back from it and allow God to come through, then you can perceive more clearly when you don't act the way you would like to act, and you can kind of go back and go, this is because I was hungry, or I was tired, or I didn't take a breath before I taught, you know, whatever. Is that, am I on the right track here?
Yeah, excellent. You're making course corrections as you go along.
That's it.
Oh, I think we're heading over to up to Antarctica. We better, I mean, North Pole.
Thank you, Jill.
And Ray.
Hi. That third paragraph, I looked at that first line. If our highest value is to penetrate to reality, then we will seek effective ways to deal with the veils that keep us from it. Of course, it was like a challenge. You got to do something about it. And then I noticed down here in the fourth paragraph, Bob is more or less, to me, I said, well, this is what Bob is saying. We open up to the Master within and invite his divine impressions to filter in through the heart center. So I'm getting the feeling that we're asking him to come in, and he goes into where, like we've talked about, holding that thought and giving it to Baba. That's sort of like a similar thing where we recognize a thought we know is a problem and which Baba wouldn't approve of and which we want to somehow get rid of. So by calling on Baba, we're sort of then, I don't know if you'd say dissolving, or something with the impressions happens because his impressions are filtering down for us and taking care of that, because doing this contributes to a pure and heart state. We have to do this if we want to put an end to the impelling forces that make us incarnate again and again. So my feeling was that from the third paragraph was that, well, yeah, like I recognize something, I got to do something about it. What do I do, right? And then Baba in the next paragraph sort of says, you know, give it to me. That's the impression I had of that. Thank you.
Yeah. And it's like I don't know if you folks have gone across the country, but you might have a song on the radio, and you're going from one town to the other, and at a certain point the static starts to come in there, and you start to lose the melody. But the melody is Baba. You want to get back to the melody. You may have to change the station, get the new station that comes in for that locality. You know what I mean? But if we don't want to make too much of the static and lose the melody. I mean, sometimes but now here's a thing that Darwin used to emphasize too, and it took us as by surprise. This is back in the 70s. Even the good takes up space in the heart. Love doesn't take up any space, but good does. So there is a reason to give the good to Baba as well. That is an interesting, that's really a very subtle thing. Who would give up good? Sometimes that's the best thing we got going, So that's something to keep in mind.
Top of page 102.
Hey, we're going to come to the end.
We're going to finish the book.
Meher Baba's divine outpouring. In Meher Baba's presence, one could always sense the tremendous dynamic power of the infinite radiating from him. Meher Baba's work includes the outpouring of this divine radiation, which is automatic in helping everyone in creation. It is the flow of divine grace, and as it flows, it works out all our problems. When we Western men went to India in 1954, I thought at first that Meher Baba would give us wonderful discourses, which he did. But it was not long before I discovered that what was most significant was simply being in his presence. Baba's stupendous love radiation was effortlessly working on everyone, affecting us in many, many ways within, affecting our feelings, our thoughts, our lightheartedness, and our insight. His divine love especially made an incomparable impact because divine love awakens the heart and permits love to flow. Through intuition and insight, we can perceive Baba's grace as a very powerful radiating light that banishes our veils of ignorance and replaces them with truth. In his infinite oceanic divine love radiation, we lose track of the little streams of our sanskaric currents. In their place, we experience a steady, sustained flow of truth, love, purity, and beauty. We are meant to experience this coming from him within us, not in a sporadic or passing way, but continuously.
It's interesting. I don't know if you remember this, but Darwin used to say that about coming into Baba's presence, he would kind of give the metaphor like you'd feel like you were a little bit in darkness, with the darkness that you think is kind of light, your normal consciousness and everything, but then you'd go into a room that's lit up, and suddenly your darkness vanishes because the light just dissolves it all. And so you might feel kind of small and slightly depressed or something, and then you hit Baba's presence, and all of that just dissolves the way a light switch flicked on can and eliminate all the darkness in a room. That's how he would describe coming into Baba's presence.
I remember that very well. That was he said that a lot, and it's particularly when he was stressing how we should have Baba present with us all the time as our constant companion.
Yeah. So that you're carrying a you're carrying around a lamp with you wherever you go. Yeah.
Diane?
So I'm going back to actually the last thing, attracting the divine qualities.
Yeah.
So the part about we will explore why we have certain thoughts, concepts, misconceptions, and unexamined conclusions. That sounds like a great case for therapy, right? Any modality of self-exploration. Did Darwin ever talk about that sort of self-discovery?
Yeah, you mean, yeah, I mean, he was very into introspection and seeing, you know, the root of your, say, the root of your anxiety, you know, and to try to go as deeply as you can into it. That didn't mean that you couldn't, you know, go to a therapist, but to get to the deepest root of it, because he would say the deeper the feeling, the deeper the healing. You know, the deeper you go and give it to Baba, the more you free yourself up. So one thing is kind of getting into the sunlight and letting the sunlight dissolve the shadows. But if you find yourself in the shadows, then to delve into them as deeply as you can and give it to Baba. So that so it involves for some real deep introspection. The deeper the feeling, the deeper the healing. He would say you can't heal what you don't feel. So there's one is staying in the light and the other is surrendering the veils, the obstructions.
So when you give something to Baba and it doesn't go away, it keeps seated in, and you keep giving it to him and giving it to him, what's a girl to do?
I know, I had a whole story with that, but I won't go into that. But it's, I mean, I did say that, well, I'll kind of sum it up. You give things to Baba, you give a layer of whatever, you give a layer of your anxiety, but it doesn't look like, and Darwin said, whatever you give to Baba, that layer is gone forever. But there's a layer behind it that looks just like the one you gave him. So it doesn't seem like you made any progress. It doesn't, but everything you give to Baba is gone forever. But it's like an onion. There are layers upon layers upon layers. And the thing that he stressed, though, besides giving these layers of your hang-ups and complexes and everything, each layer that you give to Baba and they're dissolved, it makes more room for Baba to live in you. That is the greatest thing. As you give away parts of yourself, the more you're emptying out a warehouse, and then he can come and live in it more and more. But you know, he was really stressed that when if say you're feeling something profound right now, some disturbance, if you imagine that you're holding that out to Baba, let that complex flow out to Baba, he receives it, and that whatever you gave him is gone. You know, he said Baba is like impressionless being. He used to say that. So whatever impressions you give to him are dissolved in his ocean. Never, but like I say, it looks, there's another layer right behind it that looks just like the one, then give him that layer. And then over time, it's very piecemeal, but things that were bothering you for years, for decades, suddenly you kind of get more to the root of it, and you actually start being freed up from things. But you can take confidence that this thing is happening. You are really unloading a complex with him. You might not even be able to unload that with a therapist. You can bring it up, but getting rid of those impressions, Baba is a master at that.
Self therapy with Baba.
Yeah, that's it. But either way, however you give it to him is one of the best things we can do.
Yeah, two things. One, just addressing that last question. When we did NLP, they had a little technique for trying to ratchet up the intensity of what you're feeling. So, you know, a ratchet, you click, 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 and it goes in further. So it was just sort of a little exercise where you're feeling something and you try and ratchet it up to make it more and more intense. The more intense it becomes, then it's like it's the more obvious or the more clear it is. And as it becomes more clear, then it may help you unload it. But it's more obvious as to what you need to do, what you want to let go of.
That's that's a great method. I do that.
Getting back, okay, so what I originally wanted to ask was that, okay, so in the page 101 at the end, there is if you have love in your heart that still can block it can still block Baba's energy or presence coming through you from that heart of hearts, or from Baba inside you wanting to express. So really it's a real passive thing where you let go and you don't try and do anything so that what's there can express, but it's not just like it's an infinitely intelligent expression that wants to come through. And that can give you answers to a lot of things that you wouldn't even know about or think about or deal with. No, but if you're passive within your heart, then that infinite intelligent Baba part of you can express through the quiet part of yourself, and things can happen that you wouldn't think about if you were thinking about it. They just sort of come through.
Just saying that he's got a lot more options in dealing with things than we do. So we're drawing upon his options to get through some of this stuff.
That's great, Jeff.
Yeah, Wendy. Yeah.
So what we talked about earlier there, the last line in the last chapter we just finished reading on Mayor Baba's divine outpouring, the more we go deeper and we find out what's keeping us from being the best we can be, creates a longing, because when you do feel it, it feels so good. And so you want it, you want more. So the last line, we are meant to experience this coming from him within us, not in a sporadic or passing way, but continuously. And that's, I think what it's saying is that longing. It feels like it's a longing, like when you don't act the way Baba would have wanted you to act, or repent for whatever you did. There's a longing, you want to heart connect in a good way. Am I saying that clearly? It sounds very...
Yeah. No, and that's dissolving a lot of the distance between your heart and the heart of hearts, which is Baba. Yeah. That longing is opening out to that inflow of those divine qualities into you, in Baba's presence into you.
Right. Because longing is my driver.
Yeah.
I have to be honest, for me, that's the driver, the longing to please him 24/7.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't do it, but it's still there, the longing.
Yeah. No, that's beautiful. That's the best way to be, I would say.
Yeah.
Page 102, in the middle of the page. The harvest is heavy.
The harvest is heavy. We are heading toward a life of service and on the spiritual path. Each person has a duty to perform. Everyone who comes to Meher Baba is put to work. The same with Jesus, who said, "The harvest is heavy, but the workers are few." Now, we may not know how to serve the Master. We may wonder, how do I go about it? How will I know what to do? I think that having the attitude of willingness to rally to his cause and serve him, which is the cause for all humanity, the salvation of all humanity, is the starting point. The Master will then lead us into ways and means of serving him. In many cases, Baba would use a psychological ploy to bring out the willingness of the disciple or those who wanted to come to him. He would even ask them to do such strange and unusual things as take off their clothes and walk through the center of the town. Many of them would say, oh, I couldn't do that, and they would fail the test. Others would start to take their clothes off and Baba would say, it's okay, you don't have to do it. They were willing to do what he asked. You see, it is the willingness that is key.
This is during Baba's journeys, 1954, Lord Mayor, online 3455. Once during their journey, when Baba was in the Mandali's third class compartment, and Baba was traveling on the second class and Mandali on the third class, and they went to visit them. Ramju had an asthma attack and went to rest in Baba's second class compartment, which was relatively empty. Baba asked someone to call Ramju, and when Baba was informed that Ramju had gone to Baba's compartment, Baba was livid. I have come here to spend time with the Mandali, to give them my company, he fumed, and that fellow goes away? Angrily, this is Baba. He dictated on the board to Vishnu, say, Ramju Abdullah, you should jump off the train and die. Baba's mood was so upset that the Mandali were trembling. The atmosphere was fraught with tension. Go and tell Ramju this message. Vishnu and Pukar began to cry, thinking of if this message was delivered, Ramju would surely jump. But after a while, Baba calmed down and called it off. Because if they would tell Ramju what Baba said, he would jump off the train right away. To live with such a Baba, this is impossible, constant insanity. It was going on all the time. During these 100 truths, thousands, tens of thousands were flocking around Baba everywhere, and he was such a wonderful beloved for the public. And at the very same time, he was driving the Mandali insane all the time, daily, non-stop. Only such stories. It's quite amazing.
Jeff, you'll have to unmute.
Yeah, no, and there's the willingness. Any other comments on this? The harvest is heavy. Bringing his atmosphere.
All right.
Yeah, bringing his atmosphere. Your golden opportunities for service to Meher Baba will come up. Even just loving Baba is a great service, because that love is going out, affecting the environment and counteracting at least some of the negative forces that are out there. Some may serve by talking to others about Baba. Radiating Baba's atmosphere can be part of one's work for Baba's cause. Baba would often have people around us as useful tools, avenues, or channels for his work. They did not necessarily know what was happening. They were just being themselves. I recall in India in 1954, a private talk with Baba in Upper Mehrabad, where we had spent most of our 3 weeks with him. This was shortly before the big 2-day meeting for about 1,000 Eastern men in Lower Mehrabad. He said to me, "Try to bring the atmosphere of this place down there." Now, I could not bring it in my hands, so what did he mean? I understood that he wanted me to try to continue to hold the feeling of his atmosphere in Upper Mehrabad because he knew how it would spread out among the crowd at the meeting. In other words, to bring his atmosphere means to maintain in oneself the refined feeling of his inner atmosphere. I do not know if Baba told others the same thing, but I know that he told me explicitly, and this was confirmation to me that I was capable of having that control. It is vitally important to know that our thoughts and feelings do influence others, even if they are not outwardly expressed.
Beautiful, yeah. Any comments in regard to that? Any questions? Or, going back to that last, the harvest is heavy, I find it beautiful that he says on that first paragraph, each person has a duty to perform. Everyone who comes to Baba is put to work. In other words, kind of trying to, what is our calling with Baba? And kind of defining that in ourselves. I don't mean in a worldly sense, but what is our particular way with Baba, in living for Baba? It's kind of a beautiful thing that it is there. He is going to put us to work in some way or another. Even if it's looking after our grandchildren or some community work, whatever, you kind of get that you can get that feeling. So that it's not just guesswork. It's in alignment with your nature. But anything about bringing his atmosphere?
It's sort of like when you have been to India or you've been to Myrtle Beach or any one of the centers to, lock and load that energy so that when you come back to your job, that you're carrying it with you. That's my interpretation. I'm not sure. Or even just from our Zoom times together, to lock and load that in us and then take it on Monday to work, or even later on in the day if an event happens. That's my interpretation anyway. Jai Baba.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right with that. And people coming back from India, Baba wanted them to go directly home because they were carrying some atmosphere and you don't want to necessarily drop it off in Bali or, Timbuktu, You want to get it back to the intimate people in your life.
Yeah. And Robin?
When I walk on the beach in the morning, a lot of times I'll sing a chant, Baba's, and and I wonder, if that has anything to do with the atmosphere for the people that are walking by, or even the birds. I wonder, if I say Jai Baba to the seagulls, if that ever, means anything to them, because I know how powerful Baba is, and like he talks about, it's not the wiring that's important, it's the using it as just a conduit. And so I don't know, I just think about stuff like that. I have no idea what really is going on, of course. But it feels like a good thing to do.
just while you mentioned that, Erich kind of brought this home to me. That seagull or that bird, we think it's just, it's got a little keyhole awareness on creation, but Baba with his full awareness is right behind that seagull, so that you are actually connecting with the Baba who's just behind the seagull with your chanting. It's not like some finitely conscious creature, but Baba is there with full consciousness. So it's a linking there. That opens up a whole dimension to the animal world, to the plant world, everything.
Yeah, hi. The last part, it's like I need to hear this sometimes. It is vitally important to know that our thoughts and feelings do influence others, even if they are not outwardly expressed. And because my brother's going through like a particular hard time. His name's Peter, younger than me. He's hitting 60 and looking behind and looking forward, and one of those things that happen to us. And he's just in like a place that what I told him is, you're going to start meditating. Why don't you start meditating? I said to him, because he has no interest. He's just like loose. So I said, just go in there and just sit down and just try and do it for 5 minutes. Say whatever you want, think whatever you want. And sometimes I don't get anything back. And I said, you do all I had to do something else. And you feel like, I get discouraged. And of course, it's not me doing it. It's Baba can do whatever he wants. So it was good to read this for me, to help me to maybe continue on, maybe in a subtle way, but not to lose heart. Thank you.
Excellent. Our thoughts really influence other people, even whether they're near us or far away.
Yeah, and Paula?
Yeah, some of you may have seen the film, The Final Embrace. It's beautiful, and it's the whole feeling of this, because it's in slow motion and it has beautiful music, but it's in slow motion and it's Baba embracing each of these men at the 3 incredible weeks. And it just feels wonderful. It's just wonderful. The other thing, it's like, okay, so I was getting really frustrated because I was really scattered. I don't know. I've always thought about this stuff, like where I worked and all this, when I worked in an espresso bar, I'd take Baba's hair and put it under the machine and this kind of thing, and hope that he was doing whatever he was doing, and whatever he wanted to do, and never knowing, but there was that. But then like in the last week, it got really dry, and it was like, Baba, I'm really having a hard time praying and all this. And, he puts things together for us so sweetly, because at our Seattle Baba meeting yesterday, they had a film of Arnavas, and she was talking about saying Baba's name and praying, and how, we don't have to, our thoughts go everywhere, but she reminded me that doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter to Baba. He's going to do what he wants to do. The important thing is just to say his name and try our best to be present with him. And then he'll do the rest. That's our job, I think. It's the only job I can think of because I don't know what else I'm supposed to do. Anyway, Jai Baba.
No, beautiful. And after we go through this, I'll share something I've shared before about the unseen influence of our focus on Baba. But there are plenty of people lined up here.
Marsha?
I think I commented that this was a perfect passage, just listening to everybody who's going through a lot of stuff. And I got to the point where I felt helpless and hopeless and kind of would wake up feeling crummy. And then I would do the entrusting everything to Baba. And the important part is finding the truth within, which is Baba being within you. And also about the comment about us being conduits, because if you have a plan and you stick to your plan, it's cool. But like, say you're confused about what to do and then you don't know what to do, you shouldn't act. You should just turn to Baba, because when you change your plans and go off like a computer, he has to readjust everything, because I think everything's in place. Like just me losing my dog, and all of a sudden my niece needed a home for a dog, and next week I'm having a dog arrive, a ready-made smaller dog. And it's just the synchronicity of everything. It just makes you more and more, as you go deeper and, give up more. I can really see it happening, that there's no doubt in my mind that, we're all here right now at this point because this is where we're supposed to be. So, Jai Baba, that's all. Turn it over. But it's not easy. It's like, oh my God.
Beautiful.
Hi. When I heard I'm driving to a room, I got to move very soon. Unfortunately, I got to be out by the 20th and looking for a room. But when I heard Robin talking about walking on the beach, hold on, let me see if I can pull over. Talking about the power of Baba's name and walking on the beach and hoping and thinking that taking Baba's name benefits others. This was a big deal to me. And recently I read in a book called Ask and It Is Given. It talks about how we, like our brains, are conductors of vibration. And when I took transcendental alarm went off. When I took transcendental meditation, it made a point of saying that when groups of meditators when groups meditate in cities and take the mantra, the cities transform themselves. And when I think about Baba's name and how powerful it is, meaning Eric said, it is the highest path. I take it to be the most potent word in creation. And I only have a smidgen of doubt that it massively transforms when we take his name, that it massively transforms everything in sight. And there's another way of putting it that I question, that there's a program that I listened to that talked about how our brains omit radio frequencies and they go throughout creation, and unlike radio frequencies, they do not diminish in power, meaning wherever it goes, it maintains strength. And I think to myself, my God, many times I think I'm very worthless. What can I possibly do for service, because I can't really get much done. However, that's why I make a point of taking his name. And there's even a meditator that said that's his tithing, taking his mantra. So I look at taking Meher Baba's name as not just my benefit, to benefit myself, but a massive way of service. Because when we take his name, and I think with the more enthusiasm we can take it, the more that power generates and gets transmitted throughout creation. Really, I don't think it's just across the street. I don't think it's just within my town, within my state, within my country, or planet, or universes. I think that the beam goes throughout creation. Seriously. So, oftentimes, again, when I think I don't have much value to give, it's one small concept I can hang my hat on that again, what Eric had said is that the path of Meher Baba is the highest path. And I trust that taking his name has profound power behind it. And I'll even say that when I talked to a spiritual mentor of mine, he said he did a mantra. I said, what do you think the value of taking the mantra is? He says, I think it keeps humanity from blowing up. So really, I don't think that even being an effort and grace, how do I say this? I think that being on effort and grace, taking Baba's name and thinking about Mayor Baba, even the way, what's that guy's name that hated Baba and that was put on the very top of the totem pole? I think he probably did some massive, massive service because he did it with hate, which is the most powerful, according to, I think it was Erich. So how do I wrap this up? Yeah, I mean, for anyone that wonders if we are, I don't want to say we, like we have an ego. The energy that we are transmuting, I think, has more power than we have any imagination. And hanging out here in Effort and Grace, it's not just a local power source. I trust it is an energy that emanates throughout creation. I just like to remember that more often. It would be cool if everybody else does too.
Beautiful,
all right,
Peter.
I'll pass with that. Thank you.
Yeah, Baba has said that his name is more powerful than I am. Can you imagine? But I'll finish with a story, but Rosalie's ahead there.
Yeah, I heard a quote today that I'm always collecting quotes about saying Baba's name. This one's quite beautiful. Constant remembrance of the word of his name and the form in which he manifested consumes the mind. Consumes the mind. Choiceless awareness of his ever renewing and indivisible presence, both in and around us, lifts the curtain that veils our vision from truth. I think it's a tremendous opportunity when you're around animals, because I'm up here in Little River, so there are animals, and I'm just more into the power of his name because this is such a messed up time in what evolution, whatever you want to call it. Today is messed up. It's so divisive that it's always calls for constant remembrance, because otherwise your mind goes to wacko places, fear, anxiety, but repeating the name kind of stops that anxiety. Stop, and he's made the name so easy. It's the easiest name he could have come up with, I think. Babies say it automatically, Baba. Anyway, I think that's why he made it so easy, because this point in time is so messed up. It has to be easy for us to help ourselves, Anyway, Jai Baba.
Beautiful, Rosalie. I'll just share this one thing that I got from Darwin. Darwin told us about this, that one of Baba's Mandali, Sarosh, he was with Baba from the very beginning. He joined Baba when he was about 18. He was Adi's cousin, and a long-time Mandali member. And I remember when we were there in the early 70s, he said his whole practice, he would describe it, he was a businessman and worked for Baba, and he said, all I do is go, Baba, Baba, Baba. I mean, he'd put his fist up to his chest and just Baba, Baba, Baba. In and behind everything, that's he was taking Baba's name inwardly. And so then in 1970 or 71, when he came to United States, Darwin said the moment, and this is after Baba dropped his body, the moment he touched the American shore, Darwin and Jean could feel his presence in the country, and waves of love were going out over the whole countryside. I don't know how far, I can't remember, maybe Hugh remembers, how far away was, how many hours away was Schenectady from New York?
About 3.
About 3 hours. So they were feeling this. And then Sarosh went up to Boston. And they're feeling this the whole time. And so they came over from Schenectady to Boston. As they got closer and closer, this waves of love got more and more intense and everything. Eventually they got to where Sarosh was staying, and they found him there kind of with a jigger of whiskey in his hand, kind of boringly looking at a brochure, kind of totally unaware of what was going out from him in all directions. In other words, the name was going on, and he had no idea. I mean, Darwin said it was clear. He had no idea the source of radiation that was coming out of that, what magnificent love was coming out from him. But so all of these efforts, all of our remembrance is going out to the world. And eventually, if it gets up to that level, boy, you can imagine. So anyway, it's well worth, saying Baba's name. We have something to do while we're waiting around in line at the grocery store. You can be saying Baba's name inwardly, and I just think, oh, what a great, I can fill up these empty moments that had been empty before. I can fill them up with Baba's name.
Beautiful. And Marcia?
When you take Baba's name, or it like kind of, and you have thoughts like pass by, like watch them like clouds. And then if you go to your mind and you take the mantra, it fills your mind. So you're just thinking about Baba, 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 and that means Father. So you're not thinking thoughts because you have to call your mind back to the mantra. And thoughts, you just let them go like clouds. Like when you watch the sky and they just go by because you don't want to attach to them. So something like that.
Yeah, beautiful. Just the way, yeah.
Laurice?
Hi, Jay Baba. Interestingly, so I listened to a number of podcasts. There's an author, Clint. Oh shoot, it's not Clint Black. That's a country singer. Anyway, there's a man who's been writing about slavery. I'm just spacing out his last name. It's Clint is his first name. He's a doctor. He's a PhD guy, and he's, he was an activist in the Black Lives Matter movement. And anyway, it just occurred to me because, I listened to it today and I'm like, what more can I do? What more can I do to, to stop the racism, to stop the systemic stuff that's been going on for 400 years? And, and then I just thought, oh my gosh, the most radical activism I can do is to take Baba's name more frequently, because, because it's hard to know, like, I don't actually see myself, fighting the police or protesting or, and it's so funny when there was the big protest the women's protest right after Trump was elected, I got really clearly, I prayed to Baba, should I go to this? And I heard, no, you're to work on the energetic level. And, I was praying and, I was working with Baba and working, sending good energy for that protest. And it just occurred to me like, oh yeah, the most radical activism I can do is to take Baba's name more often and send that out to the places where I want prayer to go, to send that out to the social things that I want to change. And that I think Baba just gave that to me, because my question earlier today was, what more can I do? How can I help the world more? How can I help as a white person, how can I help disrupt the racism that's going on? And that's what Baba just gave me, take his name more often. That's the most radical activism. Thanks.
Larice, I just want to jump in because what you just did was you turned me on to a new podcast, and his name is Clint Smith, by the way. So you don't have to lose sleep. So thank you very much. That's spreading the good word.
Nice. And Stuart.
Yeah, I might have repeated this a week or two ago, and if I did, please forgive me. But a footnote to what Jeff was talking about was Sarosh. 1974, I was getting ready to move to Myrtle Beach for the first time, and I got to stay in the apartment in Cambridge, Massachusetts, where Sarosh stayed during that early 70s trip. And I had just several years before had time with him at his home in India, which was wonderful. But I got to stay in the bedroom that Sarosh stayed in, and the atmosphere was astounding. It was like I was in the samadhi, and it lifted me the entire time I was there. I looked forward to going in there at night and just laying down and soaking it in, but it was an amazing introduction. I felt like it was Baba's kind of special paving the way of moving to Myrtle Beach.
Beautiful. Yeah. I mean, and that was years later, probably, wasn't it? Or a year later or so?
That, time. Yeah.
That you were in the apartment there in Boston.
Yeah. It was later.
Yeah. No. It lives on. Vibrates on.
Jessima?
Babaji, like you were telling about a story about Sarosh, like once he stepped onto American soil, Darwin was experiencing the waves of love. So is it like only people like Darwin experience that waves, or it's like anyone else also would have experienced at the same time? I mean, it resonates only with the people like Darwin Shaw, or everyone should be experiencing that?
Yeah. Like Peter Solomasi says, it goes through everyone. Some people might be, like Darwin, tuned into that station, but the radio waves are going through you. I mean, the whole country is benefiting from this. Some people might have a better day than they normally have. I mean, but it definitely goes through us. Like, just like the as if we're like a short wave and radio. All the radio waves are going through us now. It's whether you're tuning into that particular station, and Darwin was, but everybody benefits. That's from my understanding. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The joy of serving. Meher Baba says, serving the master is a joy for the disciple, even when it means an ordeal that tries his body or mind. Service offered under conditions of discomfort or inconvenience is a test of the disciple's devotion. The more trying such service becomes, the more welcome it is for the disciple. And as he voluntarily accepts physical and mental suffering in his devoted service to the master, he experiences bliss of spiritual fulfillment. This is because this is the way of effacing the self, getting rid of the self. We are forgetting ourselves as we serve him. The hardships associated with such service are not suffering, but joy because of our love for the master. In true love, we function at the level of the spirit. And at the level of the spirit, we experience only fulfillment, because love is a giving and fulfillment comes from this giving. Through love and service, we are penetrating to the level of the spirit. The hard shell of the ego begins to give way, and the divine qualities of the master begin to flow through.
That encapsulates Darwin's whole life right there. The divine qualities coming through. And he worked at kind of purifying the vehicle so it came right through, filled up a whole room or an auditorium, whatever. So people have said that he could have read the North Myrtle Beach phone book and it still would have been a deep and rich experience, just reading the names. Anyone? It says the disciple is willing to face suffering and mental and physical suffering. It's like climbing a mountain. If your enthusiasm enables you to suffer tremendously because you have this goal of reaching the summit of this mountain, you can endure incredible things. But there's this joy that's happening, and same way in trying to draw closer to Baba is like climbing a mountain. You can suffer a lot, but you're drawing closer and closer to Baba. So the suffering is the enthusiasm or the joy compensates for the mental and physical suffering you might have to endure in trying to live for Baba.
It's remembering that Baba says not to worry, because if we worry, then he won't worry for us. He wants us to be happy no matter if we're unhappy or not. Like I remember somebody saying, reading about not having a garlic face, like even if you have pain, you should smile because it's contagious. So if you're feeling crappy, people pick up on it. And if you can get past that and feel good, even though you're feeling bad, then you're serving Baba.
Yeah. Beautiful. No, that's another example. The garlic face, the smile that helps others. I mean, even on a physical, seemingly mundane level, it changes the atmosphere of a room.
A long time ago when I moved in here, and it was really heavy pandemic, I was walking my dog and this man came up to me and said, "Can I pet your dog?" And I said, I said, okay. And my dog kissed him. And then after that, he said, you have no idea how much that helped me. And now I was thinking just now that, yeah, maybe his dog had just passed away and he needed to be with a dog. You know what I'm saying? So you don't know why or what, but it's like this time I just thought about it now looking back.
I should make a comment that Baba said numerous times that I don't need your work. The work that is given to you, it's your opportunity for a betterment of your own real self. And not everyone's path is service. We're all individualized souls, and some people's path is art, some and some service. So Baba makes it very clear once you are with him that this is your opportunity. I like to offer a Baba's quote that's very related to what we just read and we're discussing. Baba says, if you meet life squarely, accepting its opposites and equanimity while carrying on your duties in a spirit of selfless love and service, you will not only come in tune with the infinite, but you yourself will become the infinite which you seek. So that's the opportunity Baba is talking about, because it's only through action that we have an opportunity to let out whoever we are, with all of our weaknesses and strength, and the master has time to work on his ego, the most stubborn will, between us and beloved God. So anyway, the ones who whose path is service and serving Baba, I think throughout the serving, if your attention is fully on Baba and only on serving him, anything that comes on your way that you're feeling so-called might not like it, you can you can just transform it. The transformation happen to remembering him and loving him, and that goes away. It all has to do perhaps with how much of our attention is on him. And who are we doing this service for? Oftentimes I had to repeat to some people that, we're here serving Baba, and we're here, we come with our weaknesses and strength, but we're here to serve Baba and his lovers. But his lovers, that for me does not mean a lot without him. Everything has a meaning in its own context, especially Baba's context. So that's what Darwin is talking about. When we have the big goal, or like you said, Jeff, when we have a big goal in mind, these little calamities here and there, or oppositions and so forth, which is very characteristics of the illusion, by the way. Without it, the world won't go even through. Doesn't mean a lot. I mean, you're able to triumph it and move on, and still focus again back in Baba. Yeah, to Baba.
I'm thinking of, hey Joe, I don't know if I'm spraying this on you and whether you have any kind of audio equipment, if you would feel like singing the song the melody you wrote to Darwin's words. Yeah. These are words that Darwin wrote down when he was with Baba in what was now the museum room, and there was a breeze coming through those high windows in the museum room up near the ceiling, and listen to the sound of the wind. Oh, I can't remember. I'd have to sing the song, but Joe will sing it for us. Joe's been over in Buffalo, and the Buffalo people used to make this long trek over to Schenectady to those meetings over the years.
Listen to the wind, son of the wind, son of the wind. Let the son of the wind ever remind you of my love. Let its soul healing bound sigh through your being wherever you are, and know that I have loved you as only God can love, and be sure that I will love you thus throughout eternity. Let the son of the wind ever remind you of my love. Let its soul healing bound sigh through your being wherever you are, and know, beloved, that you are mine forever, that I've called you from the realm of illusion to caress you with love, love divine. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Beautiful. Thank you, Joe. That's his own melody. Let's have a few moments of silence before we go on. Jai Baba.
Thank you, Joe. Your song was beautiful.
Yeah.
You know, Darwin used to tell that story all the time. No matter how many times he told it, the room would be transfixed and people would be in tears, describing his experience in the upper room of Maribel.
Yeah. There was, I don't know if it was at that time, but in that room, this is where I have it pictured, in that museum room, Baba said, someone had the thought, you know, if he would just pose for 5 minutes so we can look at him. And so Baba, picking up the person's thought, said, okay, now I'll stop discoursing and you just look at me for 5 minutes. And when Darwin was looking at Baba, Baba began removing veils right in front of his eyes until eventually Darwin was face to face with the ocean of divine love. And Baba's form wasn't even there. He said, you can see divine love. It is visible. And then very gradually Baba came back into form. And there Baba was in front of them. And so he's the formless and the form, witnessed right in front of Darwin's eyes.
So I've heard it said that prayers are always answered to Baba.
In his time now. Not in your time.
So Terry is answering, saying in his time, not in my time.
Yeah. No, that's true. You know, and sometimes what you're asking for isn't exactly in your best interests. Too. I mean, Bao used to say, don't hesitate to ask Baba for things, but don't expect him, but it puts it in his lap then, in his court, to decide whether it's really in your best interests. And you know, what do we know? We're not playing with a full deck down here. We ask for things, and they may not be exactly what would be the best for us. But make your wishes known to Baba. And I think the Mandali felt, make your wishes known to Baba, because you're relating to him as a person.
Yeah, sometimes this has been my experience, is I will ask Baba for something because I'm struggling with either my health or something going on, or Martin. I'll say. Yeah. And so I'll ask for help. But I always find it interesting because when we're asking for help, we already have it. Well, I do. I shouldn't talk about it. Preconceived what the wrapping's going to look like, you know, what time of the day it'll be delivered, what size it'll be. You know, we have all this in our head. But that is, for me anyway, it never comes the way I think it's going to come. It always comes in some way. It can be very subtle, and then I'll go, oh, okay. You know, I always find that sometimes it's direct, but oftentimes it's like, Wendy, stop thinking it's going to be just this way.
Yeah.
Right? You know?
Yeah, I agree. That's what I've found.
Yeah.
And let's see what Alan's going to weigh in on this.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes. So, um, yeah, thanks for bringing up the topic of prayer. Well, something my mom actually just called me about 15 to 20 minutes ago, or maybe half an hour ago, and she said something really strange happened to me. And she told me that on I think it was on Friday or something, she was pickpocketed or robbed, and they stole a lot of money from her because she happened to be transferring some money that day. She never carries cash, but she was carrying a lot of cash that day. And it just happened to be the day that somebody stole her wallet. Um, and so she said that, and I didn't know about this till today because she didn't tell me. But so she's like, yeah, but then she's telling me about it, but she sounds really patient and calm, and I'm thinking like, what's going? I'm feeling all this anxiety. Like, are you okay? What's happening? And she said, no, I'm fine, I'm fine. But what I called you about is because I was in so much turmoil and pain since, so much so that it was probably the most pain I felt since my mother, my grandmother, but her mother's, since my mom passed. I was like, oh, she's like, yeah, it was just so painful that I thought to myself, I thought to God, I wish that Alan was still doing his the healing work he used to do, because one time when my mom was right next to the deathbed of my grandfather, and I walked in the room, and she was in an incredible amount of pain, and she was just sobbing and screaming, and she said, please help me, something help me. And I reached my hand behind her just kind of without thinking, and I pulled something out, and she just went and all this, she just was relieved of it. She always brings it up, and she's like, please, you have to do this as a job or something, you can help people. And I've always been like, no, I don't, that's not, I'm not interested in that. But anyway, she said, I was praying to God that I wish Alan could do that kind of work so that I could be relieved of this kind of pain again, because I have such a bad pain in my heart again, so bad. And so she went to sleep, and in the middle of the night, probably 2 or 3 in the morning, she was nudged awake. She felt somebody nudging her awake. And she looked on the side of her bed, and she was very shocked and terrified because she saw a woman with kind of with like a sari around her head, who was just looking at her really compassionately. And she was just so shocked that she closed her eyes, and but she could feel that this person was very compassionate, and just the love and coming through her eyes. But she heard her say, something along the lines of like, everything's going to be okay. You can just give it up. And she felt all that suffering kind of be relieved in the similar kind of where like it just left her. And she opened her eyes to get a better look at the woman standing next to her, and she was gone. And so she called me, and she's telling me all this. And as she's talking to me, I'm just like, well, I have to send her a picture of Mara. And so I did. And I said, did you get the picture? She's like, yeah, well, no, not yet. Okay. And then all of a sudden she was like, and she just was terrified. She's like, that's who it was. Who is this? I don't know who this is. What's happening? And she just started weeping and just stopped talking. And she's like, I don't know I feel like I just got hit over the head. I don't know what to say. And I just said, Jai Baba, Mom, And then she said, and then the last thing she said that I'll tell you is that she just said, I feel like Baba, sent this person, because I eventually said, this is Mara. And she said, I feel like Baba sent Mara because he heard my prayer. And I just said it so quietly to myself, but I feel like it was Baba, Alan. And I was like, I think it was Baba too, Mom. So, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Beautiful story. Very touching. Wow.
Yeah. Well, it was just about
Wow.
20 minutes ago, so I just wanted to share that. But thank you, Jai Baba.
Yeah. That is lovely. Well, have we got time for a heart-centered meditation. Anybody up for that? Stu will be happy to kind of guide us through. Oh, Alan again? Oh.
Sorry, I don't know how to lower my hand.
Uh-huh. So, where's Stu? Yeah, you want to go for it, Stu?
Sure. Jai Baba. So just settle in wherever you're sitting or laying and close your eyes and start to breathe into your belly gently and fully. And we'll slip away from the world even a little more during this time. And as you breathe in, turn your awareness toward your heart, your own heart center. And take note of whatever you might see and feel as you focus there. And this is the infinite well of Baba's love, Meher Baba's infinite love in all of us. And the light might dim sometimes, but that well is always there, 24 hours a day. And Baba offers it freely and generously. And breathe into your heart now. Picture breathing into your heart. And now letting your heart be your guide. Pick somebody who you would like to share, focusing Meher Baba's infinite love with. This could be a person or a group. Could even be an animal. But let your heart guide you. And you'll be focusing on Baba's infinite love, not trying to bring about any change, have any effect on anything, but letting the miracle of Baba's love do what it might do. And this practice of focusing, sending love to someone's heart can be tremendously powerful in the event of conflict of any sort. And maybe you know somebody who's been in struggle, things have been difficult, and maybe just somebody you would love to share this gift with. But as you keep breathing in, get a good image of them. Get a good image in your mind and heart. So see them within and take note of what you might see and feel as you focus on them and you start to focus on their heart and their heart center. And now start to picture Meher Baba's infinite love just generously, endlessly flowing into their heart and heart center and filling every bit. And I see this warm, wonderful, liquid golden light of love. It's flowing, it's healing, soothing, calming, uplifting, inspiring. It's enlightening and forgiving. It's all those things and more. And now picture this infinite love from Meher Baba, this filling their heart center so completely that it's overflowing. And it's flowing right through. And now it's filling every bit of their being. It's touching and warming and bringing its magic to every bit of them. Every bit of their mind, heart, body, and soul. And let's stay here a couple of moments, just focusing on the healing flow of this infinite love. Now let's give thanks to Baba for being able to focus on sharing his infinite love, endless love, with whoever you've chosen. And know that you can return here again and again, anytime. And let's bid farewell for now. And gently start to bring your awareness back to your own heart and heart center. And breathe in as you settle in into your heart. And take note of whatever you might see and feel as you do this. And now start to picture Meher Baba's infinite love flowing generously without end into your own heart and heart center. And bringing its own magic with it. And picture this love, this infinite love, filling every bit of your heart and your heart center. And this love is infinitely healing, soothing, uplifting, inspiring, enlightening, forgiving. And again, we never know what wonder it might bring. So see and feel this love filling every bit of your heart, and now starting to overflow and flow through your heart, and just keep flowing. And now filling every bit of your being. And keep breathing in as we stay with the flow of this amazing infinite love for a couple of moments. And now let's give thanks to Baba for being able to focus with his infinite love in our own hearts and heart center. And know that we can return here again and again, anytime. There's no limit. And as you keep breathing in, gently start to bring your awareness back to wherever you're sitting or laying. And as you slowly come back, give yourself a few moments to adjust. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. Well, the presence seems very powerful, but if anybody would like to share anything, be happy to hear.
Well, I felt we were all one with the universe. You know, it was like very powerful. Yeah. And we needed it.
Good. It did seem very powerful, Marcia. Yeah, great.
This is the first time it felt overpowering for me.
How do you mean that, Julie?
As if part of me was moved by it. Where before I might be feeling, this one seemed like it was doing more of a Darwin, where he felt Baba move things out of him.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful.
But that seems overpowering because the ego doesn't expect that, or let's just say the small I doesn't expect that. And then, and then you're like, what's going on?
Yeah, I had a real deep sense of Baba's presence and wonder this evening doing this.
I was focused on a friend of mine who I love dearly, who loves Jesus very much and can't, well, she, somewhere inside of her, Bob is there, but anyway, she's very conflicted about it, and I can't talk about Baba. But in this meditation, it was just wonderful because it was like Baba in me met Jesus in her, and it was like an explosion, and it was just wonderful. It was like he was greeting himself.
Oh, that's tremendous. That's great. Greeting himself in different forms.
I'm probably talking too much today, but I caught the sun coming through the window, like it was like a radiating thing, and the light was coming through, and I just was like, whoa, this is phew, sparkly light, like radiating out like the sun when you look at the sun, and it was like, oh, that's cool.
My dog is still staring at me.
When you put your screen back on, your dog was staring right into the screen.
Yeah. Last night he was, I was by myself, and his back was to me, and he was begging somebody. He doesn't do this. I mean, he'll oh, well, you can't see me right now, but anyway, he stands up and he moves his paws. He goes, okay, so he goes like this.
Yeah.
Up on when he's sitting up, so his back is to me, and he's looking up, and he's doing that, and I'm like, well, okay, Baba, is that you? Is that? I would just like to know who it is.
Could be.
So I don't know quite. Yeah, we don't know, because they see into the subtle world, so I don't know what he sees.
Yeah, our cat sometimes just stares upwards for minutes at a time.
Yeah, that's what this one does.
Yeah.
I think he's a Zen dog.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Huh.
Animals are a gift. Yeah.
Yeah, they are.